is the Happy Scientist Podcast. Each episode is designed to make you more focused, more productive, and more satisfied in the lab. You can find us online at bitesizebio.com/happy scientist. Your hosts are Kenneth Vogt, founder of the executive coaching firm Vera Claritas, and Dr. Nick Oswald, PhD, bioscientist, and founder of Bitesize Bio.
Hello, this is Nick Oswald welcoming you to this Bitesize Bio webinar, which today is a live episode of the Happy Scientist podcast. If you want to become a happier, healthier, and a more productive scientist, you are in the right place. As with me, as always, is Bitesize Bio's Mr. Miyagi, and that's Mr. Kenneth Vogt. In these sessions, we hear from Ken mostly on principles that will help shape you for a happier and more successful career. And along the way, I'll pitch in with points from my personal experience as a scientist and from working with Ken. If you have any questions along the way, put them into the questions box on the side of your screen and I will put them to Ken. And today, we will be discussing why you, yes you, need to accept praise. Ken, tell us about it.
All right. It is interesting to me that this is a topic that needs to be on the Happy Scientist because you're some of the most praiseworthy people out there. I mean, just getting to the level that you're at is praiseworthy. And, you know, you're continuing to do things. And yet, you know, we've talked about in the past about the imposter syndrome. It's so rampant. And that's an episode worth going back to and listening to. But I want to key in specifically on this notion of accepting praise here today, because it really is a big part of the influence. If you get a grip on this, it will help you with that imposter syndrome, by the way. That there's a lot of upside to learning to accept praise. And I'm going to break this down piece by piece. Now, something you may or may not know, I almost never make a slide that has a list on it. I don't usually do that because what I've often noticed people do with this is they then read the slide to you like you're too dumb to read it yourself. But these are points that you really do need to get. I want to make sure it comes across, and I didn't want to just play games of showing pictures to you. I really wanted to spell it out. Now, I am going to read through the slide, but we're going to talk about each of these steps, and it's important. So when it comes to praise, the first and most obvious thing is, why are we fighting against praise? Well, because we think we're not worthy of it. And well, in that regard, we're not going to be grateful for it. We're not going to appreciate it. So the first step you can take to short circuit that kind of thinking, when someone praises you, just say thank you. It's not, even if you think it's not valid praise, that's not the point. The point is they bothered to praise you. It's not all about you. So say thank you because you're acknowledging that they bothered to praise you. And that's a worthwhile thing to do. Especially once you've gotten to that point and you're not trying to play head games with yourself and you're willing to accept it, the next thing you can do is share with them what their compliment means to you. Because, you know, again, it's thinking about the other person is useful. So it's, wow, coming from you, that's really high praise. That, you know, that kind of statement is worthwhile. Or I'm really grateful that it got noticed by the committee. You know, thank you for mentioning it. Figure out what is complimentary about it and then express it, because that's going to make them feel better about offering you praise. And again, even if you don't totally agree with it, you can still do this, because it's not that the praise itself is what's meaningful to you. It's that they praised you that's meaningful to you. And that way, it kind of comes to the third point. You're acknowledging others without diminishing yourself. So you can you can add in that, I'm glad you noticed. Or we you can say things like, hey, we did, I've got other people on my team that really helped me out with this, or really made this come together. So you can acknowledge other people without going, oh, it wasn't me, it was all somebody else. That's not the point. It's like, I'm glad that you saw that, and so really got the data together. So and so really got the experiment structured that made this possible. All of that is good, and just make sure you don't go, oh, I didn't matter at all, only these other people mattered. It's just, you don't. It's not either or. You don't have to diminish yourself to raise up others. And that's kind of getting to that fourth point. Just if you're feeling an urge to put yourself down or to minimize your own efforts, stop that. You don't have to give in to that urge. It's not required that you do so to accept praise. And sometimes we have this like a formula in our head that this is what I have to do when praise comes my way. Well, break that pattern so that you don't go there. Now, another thing that this was said to me by a scientist who was involved in this little project here. He said, are you going to be bringing up the fact that you should be praising others? And I said, it really wasn't directly in the outline and all that, but I felt like it was a good thing to mention here. If you try to divert praise by saying, oh, it wasn't me, but what about what you've been doing? You've been doing all this and it's been fantastic. Don't feel obligated to reciprocate with praise for the other person. Now, that I'm not saying that you should be arrogant about this. Like, I don't want to praise other people. I want to shine. That's not my point. The point is that you should praise people when you're moved to praise people. If you're only moved to praise them because they're praising you, well, that's not really actually very good for you. Look for opportunities to praise people and do so. But in the moment where they're praising you, let them have the limelight there. I know that sounds funny. Like, wait a minute, I'm the one getting the praise. I'm in the limelight. No, actually, they're the one that initiated the communication. That's their opportunity. So what you should do is then show appreciation. And what'll happen sometimes, you may get praised by somebody that you don't feel is particularly praiseworthy. Or there's really nothing that comes to mind that would that you'd want to praise them for. But then you make some sad reciprocal praise that's insincere and you don't really mean it, and they can tell, and it's uncomfortable. Like when you're on the fly under pressure, that's not necessarily the best moment to praise someone else. But it's okay. You can praise them later. And if you're reminded that I got to look for something to acknowledge them for, great, make a note of that and do so. And whether that happens later today or next month, it puts something in your awareness that was valuable. So their praising you helped you to do something better to communicate with people around you. And again, that's worthy of appreciation and acceptance. So now I want to talk about what I'm calling the variance. When you receive praise, in that moment, you do have to decide what track am I going to get on here. So, for instance, you might hear praise and realize this is a moment to be humble. But on other times, you'll realize it's time to take ownership. Yeah, that was me. I did that. I made that happen. And sometimes in a situation like that, you realize I need to be sharing credit here. It's not all me. Or maybe there is an appropriate time to divert the limelight. And that's when it's just plain true. When you're getting praise for something that you really didn't earn and other people did, it's really good for you to say, hey, I didn't actually put that together. That was worked up by Sarah or Bill or whoever. That's not the same as, oh, I'm not worthy of any praise of any kind at any time. That's acknowledging in this specific instance, you're misinformed. I wasn't the one who created that or made that happen. This was this other person. So it's just a matter of of situational awareness. Because there are times when you need to just say, "Oh shucks, we have a great team here, and I didn't do anything special. This kind of thing gets done all the time." But there are other times we're going, "Yeah, I really worked hard on this. It really was important to me to make this happen, and I'm really glad that it got out there the way it did, or it got as much attention, or it stirred enough things up." Or there's the times when you're just like, I want to point out these other people, and sometimes it's just a matter of, hey, it was a team effort. Yes, I did my part, or especially if I took the lead here, that's great. But these other people stepped up and did their job, and it really made all the difference. So another thing that you want to look at when it comes to praise is to consider the source. Now I have this beautiful picture here of this conduit of this pristine clear water. Isn't that lovely? Sometimes it's like that, and sometimes it's more like a sewer pipe, and it's putting out raw sewage. Not all praise is created equal. So it comes down to who it's coming from and what's behind it. So the first kind of praise I wanted to talk about, and this is one that's hopefully happening in your world, and it is important that it happens because it gives you a canary in a coal mine kind of look at things. Is this praise coming from your boss? Is your boss acknowledging your good work? Well, hopefully. And since you really need your boss to notice your good work, and you need to be aware of whether or not your boss thinks you're doing good work, it would be foolish for you to push away praise from your boss. You need that. I mean, that's just supporting your own career. So, even if you're feeling some humility issues going on, when it comes to your boss, you really need to suck it up and take as much praise from your boss as you can. Now, your boss might be just acknowledging your work in a constructive fashion. That's great. Sometimes though, your boss is a blowhard, and it's like, well, I'm gonna tickle the children here now, and it feels insincere and all that, but it doesn't matter. It's coming from your boss. Acknowledge they're in their role. Sometimes they need that pat on the head. And one way that's easy to give it is when they praise you, like, wow, coming from you, that really means a lot. Say stuff like that. And I don't mean insincerely either. Obviously, you got to be sincere, but recognize that it's true. Coming from your boss, it does mean a lot. So it's not a bad thing to be able to say that. Now, maybe you're getting praise from a peer. In that situation, it's a little different. Now, what it's showing is that you're part of the team, and they accept you as part of the team. So that's worth acknowledging. It's worth acknowledging that maybe they even see that, hey, you're starting to stand out among us, and presumably that's seen as a good thing. And I realize some people don't have the best of motives, but usually their motives are at least neutral. So if they realize you did something that stood out and they bother to say so, it only makes sense for you to graciously accept their praise. And then you stand out as not being a jerk on the team, he's so arrogant, or he's such a doormat. I tried to say how good he did something, and he wouldn't accept anything. And you've been on the other side of that, where you've tried to praise somebody and they just were diverting at every turn, and it gets frustrating. So you don't want to do that to people. Another type of person you might get praise from is a subordinate. Well, they're praising you for the fact that you're helping them, that you're mentoring them, that you're managing them well and giving them good guidance. That's just another kind of praise, but it's equally important. You do need to be someone that subordinates like to work for. And if they're bothering to tell you that, hey, I've liked working for you in this way, you want to accept that and be grateful for it. You can thank them for that praise, and and it makes you look like, well, yeah, you aren't just sitting up there in your ivory tower and like, well, of course I'm doing all these things for you. You are a mere postdoc, um, it, you can set the theme for how you are viewed by the people that answer to you in one way or another. And because often these people, maybe they're not your just pure direct report. Maybe it's just on this project they're answering to you. Great. You can accept that kind of praise just like you do from a peer, and it makes them feel good to know that they said something nice about somebody. Understand there's another person in this scenario. It's the person giving praise, and they have their own agenda for why they're doing it and what they hope to get out of it. Now, sometimes they're doing it because they're trying to build social connections. Sometimes they want to be associated with you because they see you as somebody who's going places. Sometimes they see you as somebody that's easy to work with, or a good subordinate to them. They want that. Sometimes their motivations are questionable. Sometimes you wonder, why are they praising me? What ulterior motives might they have? So I'm not saying you need to be Pollyanna about this and naive that when somebody's coming up to you saying, wow, you really stood out in the meeting today. Yeah, do they mean it? Some people, that there's some question about it. So you don't have to treat every praise as sincere as long as you're being rational about it. I mean, if you're irrationally assuming that every kind of praise is phony and fake and they're just trying to get something from me, or they're just trying to butter me up until they knock me down, you can't live thinking like that all the time. But there are the occasional problem person floating around, or the person that maybe they're not black and white a problem, but in this moment they're a problem. Fine, keep your eyes open, be a professional when it comes to acknowledging their praise, but also use appropriate wariness. It's like anything else. You deal with a lot of dangerous things in a lot of labs, whether it's dangerous to you personally or dangerous to your experiment. And of course you acknowledge that, but you don't walk in there every day terrified that, oh my God, this is going to kill me today, or this thing's going to blow up, or this thing I'm going to kill every living thing in my experiment. You won't be able to function if you're continuing to operate that way. And the same thing goes with how you treat your fellow humans here. So, it's keep your eyes open, but don't overdo it. So the whole point of this here is, if you're being praised, you must have some strengths. You got some things going on that work, and other people are starting to notice, and that's great. And so you have the opportunity then to show further who you really are. Remember, healthy self-esteem is a virtue. There is nothing wrong with recognizing, you know what, I am pretty good at this, or I did do that task very well, or I did accomplish that objective just as I was supposed to. So you can own being noticed for positive reasons. A lot of people, the reason they're uncomfortable with praise is because they got noticed. You got to get used to that. If you're going to advance in your career, you're going to get noticed. Because if you don't get noticed, you're not going to advance. It is a requirement. And so then you've got to get good at dealing with it. Now, sometimes people look at this and go, but I really value humility. And I don't know if I can keep accepting praise if I'm going to be truly humble. Well, humility does not require you to refuse praise. That is not what humility is. And what ends up happening in a situation like that is often people exhibit false humility. False humility is the worst. It's worse than unmerited pride, because if you praise me and I go, darn right, I'm that good. Okay, yeah, I'm a blowhard, but at least it's true. But if I go, oh no, I absolutely phoned that in. 10 people could have did it better than me. The person hearing that knows that that's not true, and it's not a good look for you, and you're not actually being humble. That you're being prideful in a manipulative way. It is the worst way to exhibit humility. Humility needs to be true. So, you have strengths. It's okay. Go ahead and have them, and go ahead and let them be known. And if other people are bothering to praise you for them, well, be grateful. So, what do you think, Nick?
Well done, Ken, on a great presentation there.
Took me a moment to go, why, thank you, Nick. I worked hard on that.
I thought you weren't going to take that there. That was interesting.
I made all those slides myself.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was going to mention, you already mentioned it, about what does someone want what do you want if you give someone praise? What's the worst thing? When they don't accept it. You're trying to, if you're sincere, which I presume most people here would be, you're trying to deliver. You've gone out your way to deliver something that you think is merited and will be beneficial because it's good to get praise. You want to create that virtuous circle, don't you? And so if people block, if you block that by not accepting the praise or deflecting it, no one's getting the benefit.
And if you got somebody that you can't reciprocate on a peer level, like maybe you just really don't feel they are that good at their job. They have just done something though that is worthy of praise. That is, they praised you. Exactly. You can acknowledge that, if nothing else.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But why is it? Why is it? It seems to be. I mean, I do it all the time, and deflect praise or don't absorb it. You don't absorb the benefit of that. Why do you think that is the default for a lot of people?
Well, one of the things that, and people aren't going to like to hear this, that because it represents responsibility. Well, if I did that good, I'm going to have to keep operating at that level. I don't know if I want to sign up for that. So it might be that they're afraid to take responsibility. It might be they're afraid that I can't keep that up. It was a momentary lapse of accidental brilliance,
Yeah. Yeah. So it feels like a pressure or an on the spot type of thing.
Right. But it's just something happening in the moment. So you don't have to worry about, I have to keep this moment going forever. Life ebbs and flows. It's fine. You're going to have, weeks of not having done anything remarkable at all. That's perfectly fine. And then you do something remarkable. Well, it's remarkable. It's by definition not something that's going to be expected on a day-by-day basis. So be okay with that.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. Is that I feel like just for the idea of this episode is then for people who tend not to accept praise, then to accept it. And the reason for them to accept it is then you create this virtuous circle of that's beneficial, where it's you're acknowledged by someone else when you're good at something or you do something well. So you get the dopamine from that, if you like, and they get the dopamine from you accepting the praise, and then you can, you don't have to reciprocate, as you said, because it shouldn't be fake. But then that can go around, and so that's the reason for this presentation. It seems to me, as you said, that one of the reasons for people not accepting that is, as you said, the sort of pressure of, oh my God, what if I can't do this again in the future or whatever? But that doesn't matter. But the other one, the main one for me is kind of almost like a self-consciousness thing or something like that. I'm not quite sure. You feel it's literally a reflexive thing to do it. And you don't want to appear as, if I was to describe for me, I don't want to appear as a show off or something like that. So what's the cure for that? It's to accept that it's okay to, there will be moments when you shine, and you should own them yourself. Yeah.
There are moments too where you've gone fishing for praise, and then you get it, and then you realize I shouldn't have started this. Okay,
Coin.
that happens sometimes, but that's not going to be the circumstance. If you're that insecure that you're constantly begging for somebody to notice you've done well, that's something you really got to look more deeply into. But generally speaking, if you've done something praiseworthy, you know it. And so when somebody else says, I saw it too, well, how can you be mad at them for noticing what you already feel about yourself? So, let them have their moment of awareness.
Yeah, it's a very fine line though, right? Because so as we've mentioned on here before, I sing in a band, right? Mm-hmm. And when I sing and I think I've done well, then in a way I want other people to say that I thought I did well. In a way, I don't want to have to deal with that. So I just stay away from people, tend to anyway, as much as I can. And that's a really weird tension because I don't want to appear that I'm, fishing. I'm not really fishing, but I would enjoy it if someone said that. So I tend to try and make it so that if someone's going to say that to them, they find me, and then. But you see other people in that same situation who wade through the crowd, so they get all the benefit. I'm not sure that's a bad thing either. I don't know, but it's not for me.
Yeah. Well, I think what happens a lot of times too is people get blindsided by the praise. They weren't looking to work the crowd, and somebody somehow makes it backstage. He goes, "You were awesome. Well, where'd you come from?" Yeah. and so it has nothing to do with the praise itself. It's just that. It was the circumstances that shook you up. Well, you're going to have moments like that too, where you have not received praise well, and maybe even they were disappointed. There's nothing that says you can't go back to them later and say, "Hey, the other day when you commented on what you got out of my presentation, I felt like I was distracted and all that. I just wanted to say I really appreciated you telling me that. In fact, I wasn't expecting it, so it was really great to hear. That is super valuable, and somebody else feels really praised for praising you now. So you've gained an advantage for them. So and that's worthwhile.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of writing down. Okay, so what's the playbook here then? How do you deal with this in the best way? One way. The one point is be aware if you're fishing. If you feel like you're fishing for it genuinely, then step back, and or if step back and kind of examine where you are there. Mm-hmm. Be aware if they are fishing or if they have an ulterior motive. But if the way is clear, which is actually most of the time, in my experience anyway, where it is genuine, then accept the praise. Praise the praise back to create the circle, and then also when it's appropriate, praise other people. And then imagine if people are doing that and it's free happy juice, dopamine or whatever you want to call it, isn't it? And so it reinforces people with no cost whatsoever. If we could
this allows you to interject praise that is not frivolous. Yeah. Because if somebody praises you and all you do, you really keep your desk neat. No, big deal, But it was like, no, I really appreciate you noticing that. That's genuine praise from you. So it's like you say, it's an upward spiral.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for that, Ken. I think that was a short and sweet, not a complicated point, but it's one that definitely has to be made. For a lot of people where it's missing out. It's a kind of a low-hanging fruit life hack, if you like.
There you go. And applicable in the rest of your life too. You can use this with your kids, with your spouse, your significant other, your parents, your friends. It's everywhere in life.
Okay, so it's probably one of the most simple comments, simple concepts that you come up with, Ken. So short and sweet, and this is probably the one to. If you're going to share this with your friends, share this podcast with your friends, start here.
There you go.
So Thank you to everyone for listening in, whether that be live today or on demand later. And as I said, if you enjoy this content, please share this with your colleagues so that we can help spread the Happy Scientist.
Yeah, we would like that praise.
Yeah, we would like that praise. That would be fun. Also consider, if you've not done so already, subscribing to the Happy Scientist on your favorite podcast platform, perhaps giving us a rating or whatever. That helps other people to find it. And remember to listen back to our earlier episodes. If you haven't done so already, they're packed with equally useful, not always as simple wisdom, but it's there's a lot in there that you will benefit from if you've not looked through that archive already. And also look out for more Happy Scientist episodes in the coming months. You can find them on events.bitesizebio.com and the Happy Scientist Facebook page at facebook.com /the Happy Scientist podcast. Until then, good luck in your research and goodbye from all of us at Bitesize Bio, including Mr. Miyagi.
Bye.
The Happy Scientist is brought to you by Bitesize Bio, your mentor in the lab. Bitesize Bio features thousands of articles and webinars contributed by hundreds of PhD scientists and scientific companies who freely offer their hard-won wisdom and solutions to the Bitesize Bio community.